Hey, I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. Welcome to Essential Issues Weekly, where I talk about DC Comics 1 week after their release on the Ultra tier of the DC Universe Infinite subscription service. In each installment, I pick an assortment of comics to talk about as a DC fan and also explore what, if anything, they have to say about the essential issues of real life. Now, warning, full spoilers for everything I talk about, so be aware, this is your first and only warning that many spoilers lie ahead. Okay, right now, we're taking a look at comics originally released to the Ultra tier on June 20th, 2023, and first from that group was, well, it would have been Detective Comics, and I have to apologize at the front. I had intended to catch up on this current run of Detective Comics. I was waiting also for it to get the Dawn of DC branding, and it just doesn't look like it's going to be getting that anytime soon. Maybe next month or something, I don't know. But I had intended to catch up on the arc so that I could talk about it because the creative team changed about 6 issues ago, and that's not too far back for me to catch up on. So I had intended to do that, but I think just with the distractions going on with me and my wife and stuff with her job in our lives right now, that just did not happen. But I've made a note to try and make that happen so that next month I can talk about Detective Comics when it comes out. But Green Arrow number 2 is the first one I'm going to talk about. Originally published May 23rd, 2023. And in this story, which continues from last issue, Arsenal, and also known as Red Arrow, or Speedy, the former sidekick of the original Green Arrow, Arsenal and Black Canary, the longtime love interest for Oliver Queen, are going looking for Amanda Waller to find answers about the kind of seeming kidnapping of Roy's daughter and Ollie's son, who were kind of like teleported away. Well, actually, it was Roy's daughter and was it Ollie's son last? Anyway, I think both of them, yes, last issue were teleported away because for some reason they seem to be cursed. The Green Arrow family, ensemble cast, what have you, seem to be cursed to not be able to remain together. And we don't know what the reason is for that yet, but that seems to be why they were whisked away. And I think the last words of one of the characters was, "Go see Amanda Waller," before they were zapped away. So Leon, I think, or is it Liam? I think it's Leon, Roy's daughter, was zapped away from Roy and Black Canary and ended up on this alien planet that Ollie found himself on at the beginning of Green Arrow number 1, which we still don't know really why he's there, how he got there. And in issue number 2, Ollie fights an alien that I guess has the name Troublemaker. I assume she's been in some kind of comic book before. I've never heard of this character. So to me, she was just one more of many aliens on this alien planet. And he got into kind of a bar fight type scenario with her. And then eventually that ends, and Roy's daughter connects with Ollie, and they go to like the tree house that he's built for himself on this planet and start talking. And he shares a little bit, just hints a little bit more at this curse that keeps them separated. And, you know, he says, but I miss my family. And he lists off some people. And then she says, and probably, you know, Hawk too, basically, right? And he seems to not know that Hawk, his son, Connor Hawk, was alive, or maybe based on his reaction that he even existed to begin with. Now, I can't remember, but I think maybe Connor Hawk was one of the casualties of the New 52, like he was just wiped from existence. And rather than coming with a singular explanation for bringing back these various pre-New 52 characters, as they have been progressively doing in the last few years, they have kind of left it to each book, each writer, editorial team to come up with a reason why their pre-New 52 characters were gone or forgotten about or whatever. And so it seems like that's kind of what they're doing here, is creating some kind of a reason for Connor Hawk to have disappeared as of the New 52. And so I'm on board with finding out the answer to that, and I like having my tendrils in the various corners of the DC universe. And even if I'm not reading every book every month, because even with DC Universe Infinite, I just don't think I have the time and bandwidth and interest, even though I have access to all these comics, to really follow and read them all. So, but I do like to kind of have a basic knowledge of what's going on, what the status quo is across the main characters of the DC Universe. And so that's keeping me interested at this point. But this fight with an alien in a bar, I was just like, I don't even like I'm not a super big fan of Green Arrow to begin with. I mostly am familiar with him because of his appearances does with other characters like the Justice League or Green Lantern. I'm interested in knowing what the deal is with this curse, but the alien fight took too long to begin with. I don't think alien planets and science fiction is the best setting for Green Arrow as a hero concept to begin with, and so those things together, I'm just like, I don't feel like this is playing to the potential strengths that would draw me into a Green Arrow book yet. Again, I really appreciate them leaning into family, both biological and kind of found family in a number of DC comics, and they're doing that in their own way in Green Arrow as well. And so I'm interested to see where that goes and what maybe kind of ensemble cast will emerge to be the new status quo for the Green Arrow book going forward. But at this point, they're just taking a little bit too long to get there, so my plan is to skim the next issue or issues until I get the answers I want, see what the new status quo is going to be for the characters that are likely to be in this book month in and month out, and then make a decision from there of whether or not I'm going to stick with Green Arrow. Okay, moving on. Justice Society number 4, written by Jeff Johns, originally published May 23rd, 2023. Jeff Johns is probably my second favorite writer in comic books, Gail Simone being the first. And this continues the story of Helena Wayne, who is the Huntress from the future, not to be confused with something Bertinelli. Was her name also Helena Bertinelli? But there's like a present-day Huntress that's the daughter of a crime lord. But the original concept of Huntress was in the Golden Age era of DC Comics in that universe, and she was the daughter of Catwoman and Batman. Well, they're bringing back that concept, but in this case, they're not saying she comes from Earth 2. They're saying she comes from the future of the main present DCU continuity, so this would be a distinct Helena Wayne from the Golden Age Helena Wayne that's been featured in other stories in the past, at least as far as I can tell. And so she is trying to stop the villain Degaton, who's a time-traveling Nazi villain. And he is progressively going back and killing members of the Justice League, starting in the future and then jumping back, like, I don't know, a couple decades at a time, and then killing the team again and then going back, instead of, for some reason, going to the first iteration of the team, killing them there, which you would think would wipe out the other iterations instantly. And I assumed he was doing this out of some kind of sadistic desire to just really enjoy killing the Justice Society as many times as he could. But they hint in, excuse me, I've got to jump over to this image on the video version of this, but they hint at it being about something else, some kind of ritual that he specifically has to perform in order to get the job done. And so in Justice Society number 4, they seem to be suggesting that as they're interacting with mystical characters like the Detective Chimp and Madame Xanadu and Deadman, that there's some kind of like a ritual the heroes need to do to kind of counteract this. The specifics are not clear at this point, but it looks like that's kind of the next plan of action. And Helena Wayne is also revealed to be in some way exempt from Degaton's knowledge of the future, which seems to be allowing him to dodge every attempt that every Justice Society member would have at taking him down. He seems to have some kind of foreknowledge, even down to those little details of what's going to happen in a fight. So he seems to have gotten his powers amped up, which I appreciate and I think is appropriate if he's really going to be a threat. But Helena Wayne exempts from this somehow and manages to shoot off the finger on his hand that he had a kryptonite ring on in order to be prepared for Power Girl. And so then he kind of gets blasted through time or something like that. I think it was Dr. Fate that did the job. And we see him recovering with his older self, like a 60, 70-something version of himself that's kind of coaching him, telling him, now, you forget Dr. Fate, because he had been going after Dr. Fate first in each of these little time jumps he was doing. And his older self says, now you got to go after Helena Wayne. She's the real threat. She's the real problem. And then we've got another scene with Yolanda Montez, who is the second Wildcat. My very brief exposure with her is really just reading Crisis on Infinite Earths. I'm much more familiar with the classic Wildcat, who's the boxer from the Golden Age, you know. But for whatever reason, they decided to bring back Yolanda Montez as this iteration of the Justice Society's Wildcat, and I'm open to that idea. I'm interested in getting to know that character. I don't think they're introducing her to me very effectively yet. So she's in a scene with Beth Chappell, who I also said in previously talking about Justice Society of America is the female Dr. Midnight. I'm also very open to seeing what they do with her, as long as she's actually a doctor, because I thought that Dr. Midnight, with something, was it Charles McNider, or no, is Peter or Pieter, he was a Russian dude, and he was an actual doctor. Maybe Charles McNider was a doctor too, I can't remember. But sometimes these guys like Dr. Fates, like there's nothing doctor about them. And characters, at least one character called them out on that at some point. Anyway, so I'm interested in seeing, what's going to go on with Beth Chappell, but they're still not introducing me to these characters. Instead, at least in this issue, they seem to be jumping around a lot, covering a lot of characters, giving quick exposition about what they're doing to solve the larger problem. And I want to, I don't know, either instead of or somehow in addition to those things that you have to do to keep the plot moving forward, to introduce me to these characters, what makes them tick, what's their personality. And usually, Jeff Johns as a writer leans into that in a way that really connects with me. But for whatever reason, this issue just felt very rushed, and like too many characters were being covered at once. I'd much rather they zoom in on a smaller number of characters, give them time to breathe and for their personalities to kind of emerge. At the end of this issue, Helena decides, I guess, that her best tactic is to go and introduce herself to her father, Batman, and it's kind of handled in this really quick splash page saying, "I'm your daughter from the future and I need your help, da 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 da." And it plays like a joke. It's probably intended by a joke, but at the same time, that kind of spit it out exposition, rushed feeling also feels pretty consistent, unfortunately, with the whole issue. So the tease at the end says, next, the final fate of Helena Wayne, Huntress, whatever, and the Justice Society of America. So it looks like maybe issue 5 next month is going to bring this story arc to a close. I just can't help but wonder if originally it was going to be a 6-issue arc, and for some editorial reason they had to crunch it down, because this just seems a little bit out of character for how Jeff Johns typically writes. So anyway, still sticking with this one. Johns has done enough in the past to warrant me sticking around to see if the ship can be righted with Justice Society of America. I'm also deeply invested in just the legacy of the Justice Society members and the team as a whole, so it's going to take a few issues like this one to really shake me off. But yeah, I look forward to seeing what they do to wrap up and establish the status quo for Justice Society of America next time. And I think those are all of my thoughts on comic books for now. I would love to get your thoughts and reactions, as always, in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, any of that stuff you want to do to help the channel out. I really do appreciate that. And then remember to check out christiangeekcentral.com, where you can get our podcast and a ton other content. I hope you'll join us there as we continue to geek out and seek the truth. For more chat about geek entertainment, answers to your questions, and news from the wider world of Christian geekery, get the Christian Geek Central podcast today on iTunes and other podcast services.